Today's set is between Banazama and Chykka. This is a rematch. They faced each other in round 1 of double elims, unless I am mistaken. So this is now, well, the second of their double elim, as it were. One of them got knocked to losers, and then later the other got knocked to losers, and now they are rematching. One of them will be eliminated from the tournament, the other will progress through the bracket. That's if I understand the tournament structure correctly, which sometimes I get mixed up, so don't quote me on that. Hope everybody's ready. Characters are Ragna, Hazama, and Bang, all from Season 5 on Banazama's side. Iaquis, Chun-Li, and Treasure Knight from Seasons 2, 3, and 4 respectively on Chykka's side. Players are currently choosing their characters. Alright, looks like both players have chosen their first characters. So we will go to TTS. We have Ragna the Bloodedge versus Chun-Li. Red versus blue, as it were. Alright. Let's fill in some of the side information, if I remember how to do that. Yeah, like that. Alright. Coin toss to see who goes first. At some point they need to hit a button to get rid of that text in the middle of the screen. I should have said this earlier. We're going to do a quick equipment check. This is to make sure that the module isn't having serious problems of some sort or another, because we've heard of some odd technical issues throughout this tournament. In order to make sure that we're not having those issues, I'm going to ask players to adjust their own life totals, look at cards, and then search through decks. Yeah. Usually I do this off screen. So, there you go. A behind the scenes look. Alright. Without further ado, Ragna's going first. Ragna the Bloodedge. Oh boy. He looks like an edgelord. He sounds like an edgelord. He's actually the straight man in terms of comic routines. The entire cast of BlazBlue is weird, and the story is utter nonsense, albeit nonsense that I absolutely love. And Ragna is the guy who acknowledges that it's weird and crazy, and man, he sure wishes things made a little more sense. Poor Ragna. He does not deserve to be in the incredibly strange world that he is in. Chun-Li, I don't know much about. I believe she is an Interpol officer. That's about all I got, honestly, on Chun-Li. I think she's arch-enemies with Bison, the Dictator. Alright, so let's see. Ragna has hit gain 1 life. He steals life when he hits the opponent, so he likes to trade. As long as both players are hitting, he's probably pretty happy about it. He just doesn't like to whiff. Chun-Li, after you resolve a boost, meaning when a boost enters play after any immediate effects, you may retreat 1. Allows her to continue making space, makes her kind of a footsies character. When she exceeds, her ability becomes drastically stronger. So we will probably see a Chun-Li exceed if Chykka can make that happen. Well, good luck and have fun to both players. And enjoy the show. Alright, looks like Ragna is striking on turn 1. He has a handful of openers. None of them beat cross, because he does not have a full board projectile or even a half board projectile. His only projectile is Dead Spike. Do we have that out here? There we go. Which only hits at range 2 to 4. He also has access to Hell's Fang, which is kind of a dive-like that gains advantage. And Gauntlet Hades, which is an overhead that ignores armor. Alright, it is Dead Spike, and that is Sweep. Sweep covers the other options, Dive, Hell's Fang, and Gauntlet Hades, but actually loses to Dead Spike because of this hit push 1 and then after close 1. On the other hand, that maintains range 4, which Chun-Li is much more comfortable at than Ragna is. Chun-Li has access to an above curve attack, that's flipping axe kick, as well as spinning bird kick, a very potent tool, and a projectile of her own, Kikoken, although that is a lot more situational, especially in this matchup where Ragna has ignore armor at higher speeds than Kikoken can handle. It is now Chun-Li's turn. Or it will be when she gets back. Well, we will not be without technical issues today, unfortunately. So it goes. I'm getting in touch with our player who dropped. Okay, here they are. Hopefully they are able to load in again without issue. Alright. Chun-Li going to strike at range 4, evidently. So this does threaten the above curve option or the kind of risky Koken. Could also be a regular old-fashioned dive or spinning bird kick. Most of those tools, with the exception of the speed 2 Koken, are kind of built to trade in this situation, which is dangerous against Ragna, who is perfectly willing to play defensively. Naturally, the Koken beats the options he would play in those situations, however. So if he plays a sweep or a blood scythe or a focus, he gets hit and then trades against flipping axe kick, dive, and spinning bird kick, but being able to hit back gains some benefit of his character ability. Oh, it's dead spike into dive. That is going to get stunned, actually. So she comes in. It was the straightforward dive, hitting for 5, establishing range 1, but she also has the center of the board with a little bit more room to retreat if she needs to. Alright, Ragna prepares. And so does Chun-Li. Alright, back to Ragna. So at range 1, there's a lot of things you can do to ensure that you're going to trade with your opponents. Looks like he's playing Defend. This telegraphs Hell's Fang or Assault, since Defend is most effective on mid-speed cards, things that are below the speed curve, so you're not sure that you're going to be faster than the opponents, but also not so slow that they lose to other mid-speeds. So Assault is the classic example. Hell's Fang, of course, in his kit, or Counter Scissors if he had the gauge. He does not have the gauge, notably. Chun-Li's turn to respond. Chun-Li's character ability gives her a dangerous degree of versatility in situations like this. It's worth noting that if she has a boost that causes a strike, she can retreat 1 as part of the effect. So she could play Reading and retreat 1. Meaning, well, for example, as long as she has a boost, she can back up to range 2 and play Cross. Right? The Cross is, however, punishable. Ragna has a DP, a Dragon Punch. That's an above curve attack at range 2. Inferno Divider is a phenomenal DP. It does have a benefit for initiating, meaning its use on defense is slightly discouraged. On the other hand, if you know it's going to win, or at least know it's going to trade, it's often worth it anyway. Also, that was a force special, if you didn't notice. It had force cost in the top left corner. I didn't point that out when I had it on the screen. That means that when you reveal that card, you must pay a force to validate the attack. Otherwise, it is discarded and replaced with a wild swing. Basically, it's like an ultra, except it's not an ultra. It's a special. And it costs force instead of gauge. Alright, we have a parry. She has preemptively chosen to retreat. She actually doesn't have to decide that until after she sees the hand. She does parry Inferno Divider, and she gets to see the hands. Alright, that's a mixed blessing. Yep, so the hand has Block, Cross, Grasp, Hell's Fang, and Devour by Darkness. It looks like she is changing her mind about that retreat. Which is interesting, actually, because I'm not sure that I would... I don't really see... I don't want to be at range 1 against this hand, personally. But she may have something up her sleeve. When somebody, especially at this level of play, because these are definitely high-level players at this point, when somebody makes a decision that looks suboptimal, there's a decent chance that it's a form of bait and they're holding an EX or some other option that you're not prepared to deal with. So be careful of that. In this case, however, I can't actually think of something she could do that would really handle a range 1 EX devoured by dark... Sorry, Hell's Fang. Hell's Fang. The special, not the ultra. So I'll be very surprised if she does not retreat here. She does. Now she might be concerned about... Oh, with parry. Going to call out the focus, most likely. Ooh. Unsuccessful. Yeah, so the reason that Ragna parries focus there is to get rid of the reading threats. He didn't want to get rid of his normals, Cross and Grasp. But he was afraid that since she saw his hand, he would be able to play reading against her. So we do have only one normal in this hand: Grasp, Flipping Aspect, Kyosho, Head Stomp, Spin Bird Kick, Lightning Legs. Wide array of specials, 1 ultra, 1 normal. But yeah, there was no reading, which is itself a little surprising. We do see that she has 2 different boosts that say Now Strike, Guard Crush and Faultless Focus. So if she wanted to be at range 3, she could. Right, she could back up with that boost and then retreat. Sorry, she could back up and then strike, retreating with her character ability. I believe we are waiting on the draw for the parry, but I'm not sure. Yes. We are. They got it. Okay. Just keeping an eye out. Alright, Chun-Li's turn. Is she going to continue the boost war, playing one of her continuous boosts that doesn't cause a strike to retreats, maybe getting rid of that fierce, getting rid of that grasp by playing it as fierce, its boost? Or perhaps she's going to initiate a strike immediately with one of those 2 continuous boosts that we saw that do cause her to strike right away. They're both pretty good. Yeah, they're both very good. Notably, a Faultless Focus Spinning Bird Kick would be pretty hard to deal with. So Faultless Focus is the boost that grants stun immunity, and Spinning Bird Kick has before advance 3. So it does have a blind spot if Ragna was holding, for example, Assault. However, from what she saw of his hand, he would not have an answer to that, and he's drawn only 1 card since then. He could trade with her, but he wouldn't be able to beat it clean. In fact, if she initiated with anything, Ragna could play Cross and be essentially guaranteed to trade. Because even if you lost the speed tie with the Lightning Legs that we saw a moment ago, that only has 3 power, and he has Defend in play, so he has +1 armor and +3 guard. Both players now have a lot of information about each other's hands. That's fairly interesting. See, at this point, every decision becomes a mix-up of sorts, because you have to ask yourself, is my opponent doing that because they know that I know what they know, or are they doing that for another reason? Like if Chun-Li strikes with faultless focus here and doesn't retreat, it's like, well, this is the spinning bird kick, or is it telegraphing the spinning bird kick to bait out a response that then this beats clean, like if she managed to draw her cross on that end of turn draw. Looks like she's going to keep the boost horse. She chose not to retreat. She boosted swift attack. +1 speed. Oh, excuse me. Meant to zoom in there, not do that. +1 speed and hit gain advantage at your gauge. Alright. Gives her, honestly, not much of an edge in this current boost war. That +1 speed is not a huge deal against defends, especially since she is passing the turn back. However, that hit effect guaranteeing an extra gauge if she hits is pretty valuable, because as I mentioned earlier, she definitely wants to exceed as soon as practical. Almost always as soon as possible. Sometimes you have to hold the gauge a little bit longer in order to threaten something, or make use of Hikosho, her speed 2 ultra. Typically, though, she wants to exceed as soon as possible. And we will find out why once she does. Round shuffling the hand. This is a good practice, by the way. EX. Alright, well, this telegraphs Hell's Fang, which we don't know for sure that would be. EX Hell's Fang does cover the spinning bird kick because it breaks guard. That would be 4 + 1 is 5 power. Spinning bird kick has a guard of 4. It beats everything except cross by my count. Or, well, it trades with a good number of things. If she has something a little tankier like a sweep or a focus, then she can trade with it, or an EX spinning bird kick. She could hit first with lightning legs and deal only 1 damage, but get an extra gauge, which might be worth it. On the other hand, lightning legs is a little bit risky. If she thinks Ragna is throwing EX cross, she would get completely stuffed. That would be a huge problem. And while Ragna doesn't usually want to be kept at range, with 2 gauge, he can play a little bit more safely at range than usual, because he does have an ultra with a range-based dodge effect. Attacks at range 4 and 5 do not hit you. Looks like Chun-Li is checking her own discard pile, considering those wild swing odds. Does she want to bank on this being the telegraphed EX Hell's Fang? Is she willing to risk that it could be the EX Cross? I noted a moment ago, by the way, Ragna shuffled his hand before setting that attack. That is a good habit, both in real life and in Tabletop Simulator, is not to keep your cards very obviously ordered at all times, because you don't want your opponent to see your hand, and then see you, draw 1 card, and then set that card down. So they go, oh, well, it's not one of the cards I knew, it's something else. Or vice versa, or the other way around, right? To look at you setting one of the cards that they just saw as you pick your hand back up and you just put it down, and they're like, oh, well, I know what that is now. Most players aren't really going to notice, but some players will notice sometimes. So, it's a good habit. Alright, responding to lightning legs, hoping to get the gauge, and she does. She is faster. She's going to hit for 3 power. That does 1 damage. She does get the extra gauge here. Her attack was not critical, so we can ignore all these triggers, basically. Now, Ragna's going to close and hit back for 5, push 2 and gain advantage, and gain 1 life with its character ability, so he is back at 25. Alright, he gained advantage after she did, so he's the one who has it. She gained advantage first with her hit effect, then he gained advantage, so He's the one who has it. Ragna's turn. She has 3 gauge, but he has a life lead, and he is controlling the tempo of the game for now. It's a very exciting play that I always love to see happen, and I'm wondering if it's going to happen here. Draw by Darkness typically gets used one of 2 ways. It is not often spent as force. It is usually either boosted or played as an attack. As an attack in the late game, it is a phenomenal comeback tool. As a boost in the early game, it is hilarious. Here we go. That's the Azure Grimoire. Going to spend 5 life. Sorry, up to 5 life, but let's be real. Spends 5 life, draws 5 cards, gets another action. Alright. Technically, you draw the 5 and then that hits discard, but it's fine. That part doesn't matter here because that did not go through reshuffle. It would only matter if Ragna had drawn through his reshuffle. Alright, having drawn 5 cards, Ragna now has another action. And you'll notice that Ragna has 8 cards in hands. Hand size is 7, but that's not a problem. The hand size check occurs at a very specific timing. It is after you draw at the end of your turn. So, in a case like this, where you still have an action to take, your turn is not over yet, so you have not gone to your draw step. You don't have to worry about hand size. Alright, looks like he's going to be striking with 1 card. Here I'm pretty sure we did not see the hand shuffle, so we have a pretty good idea it's not one of the cards that we saw earlier. On the other hand, the cards we saw earlier were terrible here, so that's not really information, right? Like, we saw a cross, a grasp, and that's it? That's all that was known of his hand still, so. Yeah, Ragna crossing out at range 3 does not happen very often, let's put it that way. Alright. I think Chun-Li took a peek at those discards and is now considering what to play. Alright. Oh. Reconsidering. Trying to respond and then deciding that there might be something that she doesn't want to deal with. As far as we know, Ragna has all of his assaults, all of his dives, all of his spikes. He's got the full mix-up here. It is the assault going to come in, hit for 4 and gain advantage. He gains 1 life for his character ability. And it's his turn again. Running at range 1, keeping up the pressure. Carried her from the center almost to the corner. There's a few very scary things that could happen here. Almost all of them scary for Chun-Li expressly. Even if Ragna takes a more patient or lower tempo action, like playing a continuous boost for speed or power or more armor or guard, that still puts a lot of pressure on Chun-Li because her next turn is basically scripted. She's almost always going to exceed as soon as she can. Oh, speak of the devil. There you go, that's your power. Yep. But this means that exceeding just passes the turn back to him for him to do whatever he wants here, and that is a terrifying prospect. Because with +2 power already on board, well, depending on what else is in that hand, she could get hit for a lot of unreactable damage. I'm thinking specifically, for those not familiar with Ragna, of the Not Over Yet boost, which is a +2 power boost that says now range 1, push 2 and strike. You can play it for +2 power, but if you're at range 1, you will also push 2 and strike, meaning in this situation, Ragna will push her to the wall at range 2, and then be striking and have the whole mix-up at his disposal. Assault, Spike, Cross, Gauntlet Hades, Inferno Divider, all dealing massive damage because he would then have +4 power in play. So passing the turn back to Ragna is a huge risk in return for hopefully a long-term reward, but will she be able to live long enough to see it pay out? Well, that's her call. Alright, Chun-Li checking that discard pile. Alright, Boosting Light did not retreat. Choosing to stay at range 1, that surprises me a little bit. With speed in play, it's a lot harder for Ragna to exert that kind of dominant threat. Alright, he's going to match the speed. Alright. So typically, if you both play the same boost, you reset to neutral. However, this just counteracts her boost, meaning that, once again, Chun-Li is faced with the exact same situation. She also knows that, well, or I should say, Ragna also knows that she can't tech. But Ragna maybe can. So this is a very dangerous boost ward for her to keep up. Chun-Li once again, evaluating discards, sitting back and thinking about options. This is pretty consistent with Chykka's play throughout the tournament, if I recall correctly. A patient player. Treasure Knight, Chun-Li, Iaquis. Iaquis stands out as the odd one in that group, but also a character who benefits greatly if you're good at keeping track of your opponent's threats. Checking once more. Only 6 cards down on Ragna's side, and then 2 in discard. Sorry, 2 engage and 2 in play. 13 left in deck, 18 on Chun-Li. Ragna's holding a lot of deck in his hands, but otherwise hasn't really gone through things much faster than Chun-Li. Obviously, he drew 5 cards when Chun-Li didn't, so that's going to make a pretty big difference. Prolonging the boost ward does risk Chun-Li drawing into a focus and being able to reading that cross, but it's pretty hard to punish a cross here. Even if she backed up to range 2, she would have to play a Lightning Legs or a cross of her own, and she could still risk getting stuffed by an EX cross. Oh, what's this? Guard Crush, paying for it with a copy of Flipping Axe Kick. Okay, she is betting hard that she's going to be able to win speed here. So this highly suggests... oh! Well, she's losing that bet. This is a Speed 8 EX Inferno Divider. She gets outsped and hit for 6. Ragna will gain 1 life, and he also must pay a force to validate his attacks, since that is a force special. Whew. Yep. So she attacked on curve, and thanks to this DP, Ragna was able to defend above curve, even though 1 copy of Grasp was already down. That was highly punishing, especially because it cost her turn. It's now Ragna's turn. She spent a bunch of resources, lost the strike. Down 3 cards in hand, down 12 life. Brutal. Alright, Ragna, yep, keeping up the pressure. Going to boost Revolver Action, which is the same boost as Custom Combo in Season 3. They're both references to system mechanics from the source material. Now draw 2, hit gain advantage. And then, of course, he draws for a turn. So it is now Chun-Li's turn. I believe she still has that Kikosho in hand, but is kind of running out of things to do with it. Well, you know what they say. Mash DP. Alright, she's going to perform what I like to call the Chun-Li special. Not a special attack, but a special maneuver, where she advances 3 and then uses her character ability to retreat 1, using boost on cross. Because that does not say continuous boost, it says a boost. Alright, she is building some distance, some much needed space, hoping to buy time in order to get set up again to become a credible threat. So right now, she ain't. Alright, Ragna playing that cross that we saw that he had from earlier. Going to get back to range 1, draw for turn. Chun-Li cannot build breathing room this way. Unless she has the other cross. She prepares. Hoping that she can withstand whatever comes at her long enough to turn things around. Others have remarked on this, I think, more eloquently than I, but prepare is not a good default action, but it's good when you know what you're doing. There's basically 2 reasons to prepare. One is that you have accepted that you are losing the current states, right? That's what this feels like. She's like, alright, I can't overturn Ragna's advantage currently, so I will build resources to try to be able to withstand his attack without dying. So you're literally preparing. Right, you're getting ready for what your opponent is about to do, because you've accepted that you're probably not going to be able to beat it, but you can cut your losses, and then prepare to mount a comeback afterward. The other main use of prepare is in the exact opposite situation, when you have already won neutral, and you just need resources. So you're looking at the board, and you're like, well, I'm up +2 power, +2 speed in my opponent, and I'm down 3 cards, right? Well, I don't need to worry about winning neutral here, I just need to rebuild my resources so that once things do reset, I'm not at a complete loss. Yeah, I think the preparing here is reasonable because it gives her a better chance of drawing into something she can use to survive in literally the next 2 turns. Right, because Ragna's threat level is spiking. It's not quite as scary as if he also had 4 gauge, but it's pretty bad. Well, Ragna has a hand of 7 cards and 2 gauge to work with. He needs to decide how best to capitalize on this. Going to initiate with 1 card. The typical play here would actually just be a sweep, a blood scythe, might play a grasp. So Chun-Li might have the opportunity to call this out, right? If this is a grasp, then she wants to play a sweep or a focus. If this is a slower move, then she wants to get past it, probably with a spinning bird. No, that doesn't work. Not sure with what, honestly. Ah, well, okay, it is blood scythe, so she didn't really have a way around that because both her dives were down. Whoops. That was interesting. Ragna is going to put himself in the corner. Hit for 5, which deals 3 after armor, and then gain 1, putting him at 23, and then take 4, putting him at 19. Yeah, okay. Math's good. He also gains an extra gauge, and notably, he does gain advantage thanks to this hit effect on revolver action. So this was very high value for him. Could she have punished that? Technically, we know that if she had specifically called the blood scythe, she could have beaten it clean, but it would have cost her 2 gauge. And that would be a heck of a call. So, Ragna's advantage. Yeah, he cornered himself, but the advantage makes that a lot less bad. This is a reasonable time for Ragna to exceed, but it really depends on what his hand is shaped like. Alright, boosting defends. Fully expecting her to exceed next turn, most likely. This is a little chancy. If she happens to have an assault in that hand, she's probably just going to back up to range 6. You know, just get out of dodge. She could also switch things around and just try to set aside her hope of exceeding as soon as possible and play better neutral. That would involve changing cards out of gauge, potentially playing boosts just to set up hard reads. It's a very risky playstyle, and you generally don't want to do it when you're this far in a tournament this advanced. On the other hand, when you're down 12 life, maybe you don't have a choice, right? Chun-Li checking Ragna's discards. Again, keeping an eye on what threats he still has at his disposal. I believe he has so he has 3 Ultras left, 1 copy of Garby Darkness, 2 copies of Carnage Scissors, if I have counted correctly. He's out both of his DPs, that's important, both the turn dividers are down. She is mousing over her deck, either to remind herself of how many cards she hasn't seen yet, about half her deck, or considering preparing. Yep, there's the prep. Back to Ragna. So Chun-Li is still at a disadvantage. It's a little less severe than last time in terms of like overall game dynamics. Obviously, Ragna won the last strike, so he is still in the lead. But this phase of neutral is less to her disadvantage than the last one was. She's closer to the center than the edge. Like she has the center. Ragna's at the edge. So he's cornered instead of her. That's good for her. The only boost in play is Defend, which is certainly good, but a lot less scary than Hit Gain Advantage if you're going to pass the turn. She's probably reasonably okay with weathering at least one more strike before exceeding. Or she's just hoping to draw into that backstep. Backstep is the boost on Assault, which reads Retreat up to 4, which then, of course, being Chun-Li, she could retreat up to 5. Now, for Ragna's part, he does not want to see that happen. What will he do about it? Couldn't tell you, but we'll find out soon. Typically, a defend at this range means you're threatening, again, an Assault, a Hell's Fang. Now that he has Gauge, he could be threatening Carnage Scissors. That'd be pretty exciting, although 1 copy of Carnage Scissors does not a safe play make, even with Defend. You could also just be hoping to use it straight up, playing something on curve like Grasp. Although, playing a second Grasp would run him entirely out of on-curve options. That feels a little risky. Maybe not as much in this matchup as in others, but risky nonetheless. It is, I believe, still Ragna's turn. Looking like a change cards. 2 force to change cards, draws a total of 3, and needs to discard 1 for end of turn. Yeah, so that's the end of turn draw, which means now he checks hand size. He is again at 8 cards, this time he will have to discard 1. Alright, drops the other copy of Gauntlet Hades. Chun-Li immediately eyeing that discard pile. One of those cards was spent from hand. I believe it was a dive. The other was from Gauge. Lost track of what that one was. with this few cards left in deck, that strongly suggests that Ragna is looking for very specific tools. Like, she's down one cross. If she doesn't have the other one, she is susceptible to a not over yet assault chain. Well, it doesn't really chain because she only has one assault, but, you know, with 3 gauge, she can still threaten Devoured by Darkness. I think we also haven't seen any foci, so Reading Thread is live. She is down 1 focus. It's hard to know exactly, but, like, in this situation, that change cards action strongly suggests that Ragna is comfortable with his position and is waiting for her to make a move so he can immediately punish her. Which typically means that he has an EX at the ready, and is just looking for better ones, or more tools to punish, or more tools to threaten. And he also got rid of a normal from hand, although not after the end of turn draw, so if he is holding normals, they're ones that he's comfortable having. That's a little interesting. So I would generally expect people to ditch normals at all costs when their deck is this thin against somebody who has an outstanding focus. Okay, not at all costs, but, you know, at every opportunity. How about that? And there's the backstep. Yep. We're shooting 4, then 1. Or maybe not. Yeah, just checking the math. Draws for turn. Alright, back to Ragna. So he no longer has the gauge to exceed. However, exceeding in this situation isn't the most common play because we can only close 1 space. It's that exceed effect, which is on the front side of his character card. Alright, he's paying force to move. That looks like a 3 force. Deciding if he wants to move more. Ooh. He does. Gets right up in her face. Not gonna let her get away. It's a lot of force expended. That is 1 copy of Carnage down. That is his second grasp, which I'm pretty sure at least he drops the second grasp from him. Yeah, think of some out-of-speed 7 options. And that was his second copy of Devoured by Darkness. So very few ultras left. No longer can threaten EX Carnage Scissors. Still threatening, not over yet. If she, you know, lets the turn pass again. That backstep definitely felt like it got value, though. So it makes sense that Chun-Li was trying to dig deeper. Cost her 1 card to move back, you know, 5 spaces. Cost him 2 ultras and a normal. Chun-Li reviewing discards once again. And here's the reading. She names, she chooses to retreat, and she sets. She should have already named something, but it looks like she's confirming. Strictly speaking, right? Should have technically named it, but it doesn't really matter. And here's the focus, preemptively discarding it because... Yep, okay. So that spike hits discard before the focus, actually. Okay, they got it, yeah. So these players know discard order. So yeah, there it is. So reading, retreat 1, and strike means that, you know, focus, which is safe at range 1, suddenly becomes unsafe, because now she's at range 2. Alright. That was a solid play for her. It also cut her out of range 1, so not over yet isn't a threat. Ragna still has an edge, no pun intended. But it's a little bit shakier now. Alright, boosting light. Now threatening his own spike pretty heavily. Funny thing, she could play a stun immune crit Hazenka here and hit for 11 and then still lose. Because of just getting out-traded. Like, hit for 11, take 5, Ragna heals 1, then Ragna hits, and now you're dead. He is, although actually I say that, now he's low on fast options, so after this light goes away, he's not going to have the easiest time coming out on top. Is this the exceed? Feels like it. Yep, deciding which cards it spends. Spike, focus, head stomp. That makes sense, yep. And there's the flip. Alright, let's finally take a look at this. So same effect on the top half of this. After you resolve this, you retreat 1 if you structure reverse. Then, for each continuous boost you have in play, your attacks have plus 0 to 1 range. That means plus 0 minimum range, plus 1 maximum range. Every attack in Exceed has a minimum and a maximum range. So Dive has a printed range of 1. That means minimum range 1, maximum range 1. Right? So plus 0 to 1 range on Dive makes it minimum range 1, maximum range 2. So 1 and 2. Which means that it goes from hitting at, ranges 3 and 4 to hitting at ranges 2 to 5. Notably, this means that with a single continuous boost in play, her grasp can hit at range 2. This, combined with the ability to continuously retreat not continuously, but repeatedly retreat each time she plays a continuous boost, makes her pretty stellar in footsies from here on out. Now, she has gone through a decent chunk of continuous boosts, but I think there's a couple left in that deck that she can still use to suddenly gain a pretty overwhelming advantage in neutral. And she'll need it. Ragna is starting at a pretty massive advantage, not quite overwhelming anymore thanks to that rating. If he had one more gauge, I think he'd be in good shape. But he does not have the ability to close 1 and strike with his character ability. It looks like we have a parry? Okay. Probably calling out Hazenka. Oh, no, I was calling out the other copy of Head Stomp, I guess. Alright. So he has a block, flipping X kick, spinning road kick, and both copies of Kikosho. That's pretty scary. Yeah, that's 4 continuous boosts in this hand. And I think she still has at least 1 unaccounted for grasp. Which, she's got a lot of deck left, so this makes sense. And I believe we already saw Ragna draw for a turn. So. What? Oh. Reference card. Okay. Alright, there it is. Alright, well, Chun-Li's hand is solid, not amazing, solid. She's reasonably fast with speed 5. She has a good array of boosts with +1 power, stun immunity, and ignore guard. Notably, only one of these can actually just sit and play, right? Power attack is just a +1 power hit game and just skate boost, which is good. But the other 3 all say now strike. So, if she were to boost, she would probably be striking immediately, with Ragna having +2 speed. That makes the ignore guard boost a lot less tempting. Looks like she's taking the manual reshuffle action. draws for end of turn. That's fair. I guess she's not afraid of Spike? I'm a little surprised by this. Oh no, hold on, he boosted Defend twice, didn't he? And he dropped both Gauntlet Hades both copies of Gauntlet Hades. Alright, looks like Ragna is going to be changing cards. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this looks like the CC through the reshuffle. So he will unfortunately miss out on that Astral. So 1, 2, and then 3 more total. Like 3, 4, and then end of turn. So he'll actually be drawing to a hand size of 7. And what a colorful hand. That is a Focus, Dive, Assault, and Cross. So 4 different normals right there at the bottom. Yep, so that was an automatic reshuffle, meaning he does not gain his Astral Heat to his hands. The Black Onslaught is unfortunately lost forever. Well, lost for this game anyway. Alright, well, unless Chun-Li drew that reading off the top, it's not particularly easy to punish that hand. He drew, I believe, 3 more cards from the shuffle deck. She drew 1. Oh, excuse me. That looked like an accidental hand tip. Well, please be careful. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Chun-Li noted down the cards, so I'm not sure why they're being tipped again. Yeah. But yeah, so unless she got the reading off the top of the deck, this is going to be pretty hard to punish. But she might have. She did make sure that both her foci were in that reshuffle. Chun-Li appearing to agonize over that hand. Notably, Chun-Li not under much threat from Ragna's reading. She only has 1 known normal in its block. Which, okay, that is pretty punishable because this is Ragna, right? He has both Spike and Gauntlet Hades accessible here. So, he can probably tear through that block. But, you know, that's not all that impressive. Like, you can get rid of that trivially by parrying or by paying a force cost or whatever. So, having a hand that is mostly cards that are known not to be normals makes her a little less worried about reading than you normally would be. And we do have the parry. My guess is either the focus or an ultra. A what? A dive. Alright, I didn't expect that. I guess she's afraid of getting teched later? First the head stomp and the dive. These are some unconventional parries here. She may or may not have chosen to retreat, by the way. It doesn't matter. Her back is to the wall. It is now Ragna's turn. Well, he can't reading the block, obviously. But he still has a reading, as well as an assault and a cross. The assault in particular, unbeatable by anything that we know is in her hands. Spinning bird kick does not get stunned, but spinning bird kick would miss due to positioning. So he's currently capable of playing an above curve assault. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. Like, even if these are sweep and or focus, right, and she out-trades him, he still has a life lead, he would still have advantage, it'd be his turn. There's the trouble of your follow-up, right? If you assault into sweep, there is a non-trivial chance that the follow-up you intended to play gets knocked out of your hand by sweep's effects. What have we got? Alright, Ragna just strike with one card face down. Let's see what happens. So with +2 speed in play, major threats include spike and assaults. He is known to have an assault. So that is by far the telegraph. Losing cleanly to assault here would be pretty devastating, because that would put her with literal disadvantage in the sense that Ragna would have advantage at range 1 with 3 life remaining. That'd be very bad for Chun-Li. All she needs is time right now, so she needs to withstand this, whatever it is. It is the assault, it is the sweep. Yep, so she's going to go down to 3 life, he's going to go up 1, then down 6. He loses a card, but it is his advantage. Huh, Hell's Fang. That's fair. Yeah, Assault is probably better than the Hell's Fang here, just because you would retain Hell's Fang's boost and you don't need Assault's boost. Alright, follow up. The telegraph here is Focus. Now, if Chun-Li calls it out, she can crush it, but that'd be a very daring call out. Oh, it's Inferno Divider. Well, that'll do it. Yep. Mash DP wins again. Did she have a defensive card? No, not that would cover it. She needed Block or EX Grasp. Yeah, so if she had called the Assault, she probably would have wanted to play the Spinning Bird Kick for positioning to get out of the way. But when it comes down to it, she just didn't have... didn't accelerate her card flow, right? Like, Ragna made sure to burn through his deck as aggressively as he could. And kept an edge in neutral pretty consistently. Well, that's game 1 to Ragna. Ragna retires in glory and will not be accessible for the second game. Or the third game, if there is one. Thus are the consequences of winning. Chun-Li, still available. As are the other characters, of course. So both players will be choosing their characters for the second rounds. Yeah, so when I picked this interstitial, I was like, you know, I'm not actually sure if this is better as a Ragna win screen or a Ragna lose screen. But either way. I figure this way, you know, if Ragna gets played, I have something I can fall back on. Alright, so once again that leaves Hazama and Bang, both from Season 5, versus Iaquis, Chun-Li, and Treasure Knight. By the way, I've been streaming for about an hour. Grab some water, and actually I'm going to do that, so excuse me for a moment. Alright, I'm back. Players are still choosing their next fighter. These glasses. Yeah, the Spectacles of Eros. Are those Mark II or are those Mark I? I think that's Mark II. Oh, here we go. Oh, boy. Okay. This is, I believe, a a rematch. I think they played this same matchup when they fought against each other in the first round of brackets. I could be wrong. Either way, sure to be exciting. So, Bang Shishigami, a heroic ninja of love and justice, leader of the Ikaruga ninja, fearless man of valor and honor. Against Treasure Knight, large dude who is good at numbers and math and money. I don't have that much of a spiel for him, but he's very responsible. He invests wisely. All right. As loser of the previous game, Treasure's player gets to choose who goes first, decides to go first, draws 5, and we are now in Mulligan. Mulls 2. Bang draws 6. Bang has a notorious opener. Bang saw Shuriken. Let's see if we've got that lying around. They did not break out the reference? Oh no, they did. Here we go. Yeah, I'm blind. Before draw 1, then you may play Boost from your hands. It does not sustain, notably, but a boost from your hands, that includes instant boosts. Right, so you can play run or backstep to drastically alter the positioning in the middle of the strike. Alright, it looks like we're already on turn 2. Treasure Knight prepped, back to Bang. Huh. I believe that was a CC0. That is to say, the change cards 0 action, where you spend 0 force to draw 0 cards and then draw for end of turn. Usually a meme, this action does have some niche usage. I certainly don't expect to see it in early game. I expect to see it when people are close to decking out, or when they desperately need not to hemorrhage information. So this suggests one of two things. Bang is very comfortable with the hand he has, and does not want to give any information away. Or Bang has decided he is in for the long haul. Given this is Treasure Knight, both are pretty reasonable. Alright, treasure boosting cross to run, advances 3, goes to range 1. Makes sense. Bang Style Shuriken's a lot less potent at range 1. At range 1, it is speed 6. Well, it's speed 6 regardless, but at range 1, it is below curve. There we go. It also has a hard time getting out of the way, right? In this positioning, Bang could play, I think double jump is the only way they could build enough distance to get out of the way of a sweep, for example. Let me show you double jump. It is the boost over here. Yeah, advance 3 if you move past the opponent this way, move 1, draw 1. Alright, Bang boosting larger than life. That is hit plus 1 power, gain advantage, and add this to your gauge. Interesting. Void Tempest Kick is usually considered a pretty valuable special against slower, tankier characters like Treasure Knight. This hit effect, however, does let Bang set up Gauge to exceed one more quickly, and also helps him build toward Hyper Shadow Step Strike, a very exciting ultra. Also, the power can just be worth it by itself. +1 power doesn't sound like much, but breakpoints matter. Breakpoints refers to when attack interactions change because a number reached a certain threshold. For example, +1 power means that Bang's sweep would now be Treasure Knight's sweep if Bang initiates. Alright, treasure boosting diving suit. When you're hit, you may spend 2 force for +3 armor. That doesn't really say 2 force, because it's a Treasure Knight, right? This character ability says when spending force during a strike, you may generate force for free. So, when you're hit, you may spend 1 force. Okay, I guess strictly speaking, you're paying 2 force, but, you know. Alright. Bang's turn. Yeah, so this kind of boost really helps Treasure Knight grind out a long game by just trading hits all day long. Saying, hey, I have enough armor, enough power, I can take it. You know, I can do this all day. Right, trying to outlast Treasure Knight is very difficult. And that's what we've seen over and over. I'm fairly certain that Chykka's Treasure Knight is actually still undefeated in the tournament. Alright, we have +1 speed, now advance 2 in strike. That does cost a force, and we see that Bang actually discarded a copy of Shuriken to do it. So advancing 2 takes him to range 2, since you always skip the opponent when moving. And he's now striking. Here he has a lot of options. He has a +1 speed spike that he's very obviously threatening, because that would ignore armor. Could have the other Void Tempest Kick, which would be 5 power, ignoring guard, but not armor. Could also just be a cross, looking to get out of there. If Treasure makes the call, this will be excellent for him. He does not, however. Scuttle Slam, calling the spike, is going to lose the speed tie against the Assault. So Assault hits for 5, gains advantage. Now Treasure may spend essentially 1 force to get +3 armor and take only 2 instead of 5 damage. He probably will. It's a good deal. Treasure deciding what to spend and whether to spend. Alright, discards a copy of Dive to pay that cost. Yep, so +3 armor means takes only 2 damage, but is still stunned. Well, he managed to cut his losses pretty effectively, but he's still definitely lost. Bang prepares, turn comes back to Treasure Knight. Who also preps, I believe. So it should be Bang again, I think. Yep. Alright, boosting set now. That is before you may advance or retreat 2. So before effect. Getting teched immediately. Alright. Yeah, that makes sense. It's an excellent boost. Plus, Bang's 2 other Ultra boosts, which also cost force, both have now strike on them. So you don't get an opportunity to attack them. Alright, Bang prepares. It's now back to Treasure Knight. Treasure already checking through those discards, fairly shallow discards. Might be thinking of setting up a reading. I guess I have to actually look at deck counts this game. Yeah, Bang's at 17, Treasure's at 18. It's feeling like this is going to be a long one. Treasure and I boosting for +2 speed at range 1. Interesting. This does change interactions. Notably, it makes the other Void Tempest kick a lot less dangerous. However, speed is least commonly used at range 1. Alright. Looks like Bang... I think Bang is short a card. Yeah. And then we'll need to discard a card. Alright, so yeah, boosting Tempest Flying Squirrel Jutsu. Now draw 1 after remove 1. Alright, discarding the other copy of Assault, makes sense. Yep, so this is an obvious signal for I want to exceed this game, but that's not unusual. Bang's Exceed mode is phenomenal. As with Chun-Li, I'll just have to show it to you when we get there, but suffice to say that Bang's Exceed is radically different from his main character ability, and allows him to recur stuff from his discard pile. That after movement effect is particularly interesting. Gives Bang a lot of positioning control after the next strike. Notably, he didn't challenge the speed boost. So this suggests that Bang wants to play something defensive, like a block or a focus, in response to whatever Treasure Knight throws next. At range 1, without a boost in play, Treasure just doesn't really have anything especially threatening. Starting at range 2, he can throw Treasure Coin for decent value. Starting at range 3, he can throw Anchor Launch. But I do not know of a setup that he can use here, other than, of course, the universal mid-speed Cross. At range 1, Cross is under curve, but beats virtually anything slower than it, provided you have room to maneuver. So that does make it a range 1 mid-speed. This is also the most common reason to boost Light at range 1. It allows your Cross to beat literally everything, because your opponent can play Grasp and you still outspeed it. However, Bang is a character who actually has a Cross counter in his kit, Pulverizing Blast Jutsu, so usually you wouldn't see this come out like this. This is a Cross counter because at ranges 1 and 2, it will still hit a Cross that retreats away. Alright, Treasure, confident now that he's going to hit, is boosting Secure Vault so that he can build Gauge quickly. This boost is very hard to read. Attack is great art, though. Anyway, hit, spin up to Force, for each Force spent, at the top card of your discard pile to your Gauge, then draw a card for each cards in your Gauge. So, this is a for each loop, essentially. So you pay 2 Force, then you will add the top card of your discard pile to your Gauge, draw a card for every 2 cards in your Gauge, then add the top card of your discard pile to your Gauge, and draw a card for every 2 cards in your Gauge. Bang is initiating strike. Okay, so interestingly, he is still threatening to outspeed Treasure Knight if he has the other copy of Infinite Chaos Fist of the Void and is willing to play it. That is the thing that beats Cross here. Well, that stuns Cross. Right. Like, that stuns it out. Because he wants to deny this Secure Vaults, in all likelihood. This could also just be a block, a focus, or the Polarizing Blast Jutsu preemptively calling the cross. Even block or focus give him some amount of control because of that after effect on his boost. Treasure Knight cruising discards. You know, in all matchups, this is the one where I think it is the most thematic. But I remind everyone to stay hydrated. Because Treasure Knight dwells underwater. That's all I got, just the Treasure Knight side, not Bang. If Bang was maybe Cyrus, then I'd be able to fall back on that. It is Grasp into the cross, okay. Bang being a little bit cheeky here, gets called out successfully. Cross hits first, and now, yeah, Treasure Knight has this hit effect to worry about. Alright, paying 2 force, evidently. So add top, discard a gauge, then draw 0, then add top, discard a gauge, and draw 1. Yep. And then retreat 3. Okay. The fact that Bang initiated and did not get the benefit of his after means Treasure now gets a decent bit of positioning control here himself. Interesting. Typically it's optimal to put ultras on top. Not illegal though, that's just a decision. Like, you can do it either way. Normally a Treasure Knight would exceed ASAP, however I think he wants to get full value out of the when you exceed pull up to 3 effects. So Treasure might just wait until it's a better time, because this positioning is acceptable for him. 1 copy of Bang Style Shuriken is down. And with 3 gauge, he can threaten Maelstrom Chest. Looks like Treasure prepares. Bang boost fierce. Definitely threatening that Shuriken now. Could also be holding on to a dive or an EX dive actually. An EX dive Bang could play with relative impunity if he initiates. On defense, that loses pretty badly to Maelstrom Chest. '28 to 27. Yep. Settle in, folks. We'll be here for a while. Both players now searching Bang's discard pile. Oh? That is not the right character? What? Treasure Knight accidentally flipped Bang. Okay. that'd be an interesting exceed, I gotta say. So when you exceed, pull up to 3. Wait. Treasure Knight apparently deciding his hand size is 6, which is not legal, so don't do that. Well, that does give away some information, so if Bing has a reading, he might just deploy it here. That's the kind of mishap that, well, in tournament play, it's completely justifiable to punish. So we'll see if he has the punish. I'm just going to initiate a strike with 1 card. Telegraph is sweep, actually. What do we got? Focus, okay. That Maelstrom chest is going to drop unused, unwanted, and unloved. Anchor Launch. That will get Treasure Knight out of range if he chooses to validate. Yeah. Okay, so Treasure Knight's ability is optional. So he's going to take this opportunity to discard that spike that he accidentally reveals to pay the cost of this force special. He then advances 4, 5, or 6, which puts him out of range of the focus, and then Bing draws for his after effects. Yeah, that's one way to get rid of that information. Alright. You can check those discards again before committing to this movement. Yeah, the fact that Bana initiated with the focus there instead of reading the spike is a gesture of remarkable chivalry. He explicitly chose not to punish. Chances are he had something that punished the spike, because at range 1 it's very easy to punish spike. Okay, that was Treasure Knight taking the move action, spending 1 force with his character ability. But yeah, that was almost certainly intentional. Well, or he just didn't notice what was discarded. Right, one of the two. Yeah, I commend this. To be clear, I commend both sides of this. If your opponent reveals information, I commend you if you punish it mercilessly. And if you don't punish it, and you are instead charitable to your opponents, then your opponents should punish you for doing that. Because then, if you beat them anyway, you're awesome. Right? That's the goal. Be known to be chivalrous, and win anyway. Chivalrous may not be quite the word here. I don't know. Fight with unusual honor. Bang initiating here at range 3. Telegraph is dive. Beats basically everything except for assault or EX dive. Yeah, it was a little unusual for Treasure to retreat, to advance to 3 after going to 4. Typically you would see him holding down the fort at long range. However, with both copies of Anchor Launch down, his only ranged options are both Maelstrom chests are down, so Treasure Coin? Yeah, Treasure Coin's it. And I think when Treasure Coin is down, although I'm not entirely sure about that. I think I might have missed that. So yeah, Bing's ranged options are actually probably better than Treasure Knight's at this moment. Just because Polarizing Blast Jutsu exists. Yeah, could be dive, could be spike, could be shuriken. Treasure holding the center does make sense. I'm just surprised he didn't want to hang out at range. Holding the center means he can do things like play just dive charge or EX dive charge and cover most of the board with most options. In particular, EX dive charge has a pretty solid stat line. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. Speed 5, power 4, or maybe up to 7, depending. 1 armor, 4 guard. So that's 5 defense at speed 5, which extremely hard to break, right? This is an EX, probably dive char. No, EX assault. Oh, going to lose the speed tie against Shuriken, so Shuriken needs to be validated first. But then if Bang can either stock at least +2 power onto this, or do something that causes him to retreat, then he will be able to evade the counterattack. So we'll see what happens here. We know that he does not have a second assault. He could have an unstoppable palm thrust to boost Flying Scroll Jitsu. Tempest Flying Scroll Jitsu, you know, not the other Flying Scroll Jitsus, the Tempest one. Going to... okay, just gain the extra gauge. So deals 1 damage after armor, does not stun. Advantage is stolen from him, but he builds an extra gauge. That's very surprising to me. I guess he just wanted to get value out of that before effects. But I think dropping the second Void Tempest kick is going to be a problem, because he now cannot threaten to utterly destroy Treasure Knight's slow moves nearly as easily. Alright, Treasure Knight prepares with advantage. Alright, here we have the double jump. Advancing 3, then advancing 1. Bring him back to range 2. Alright, Bang currently has the lead in terms of resource exhaustion, which, like I said earlier, is probably actually going to come up this matchup. With Treasure Knight playing a very tanky, grindy, patient game, he needs to be concerned, both players need to be concerned about running out of cards. And Bang's Exceed ability lets him gain a particular kind of advantage when it comes to recycling cards. Okay, high tide. Yep. This is a very solid boost. Plus armor and a before effect, which gives Treasure quite a bit of versatility. Of course, he pays the force cost of his character ability, and then his before effect only costs effectively 1 force. Alright. Yep, Bang responding with lights. Now, no longer able to threaten Void Tempest Kick, Bang does still have access to, you know, Unstoppable Palm Thrust, Cross, and Spike, notably. Here we have a reading. Reading Spike. Must be playing an Assault or possibly a Cross of his own. Uh-oh. Okay. Yep, that is going to win speed tie. About to say, that EX comes out, and you might have a problem. So Bang takes 2, and gets pushed 0. So he isn't stunned, but he misses. Alright, Bang prepares. Plays again with comparable number of cards in deck and in hand. Treasure with a life lead. And Bang with a reasonably interesting gauge that has 1 Shuriken, 1 Shuriken, 2 Void Tempests, and 1 Assault. Alright, here we have the other high tide. Yep. It's +2 armor, and then a before effect. That gives Treasure quite a bit of positioning control. Okay, set nail. Yep, going to essentially... Yeah, it doesn't strictly counter high tide, but does a pretty good job of it. Notably, set nail does not allow your sweep to catch spike. I think Treasure is down 1 spike, but yeah, this means spike can hit range 1 against everything except focus, right? And dive and cross. Treasure initiating with 1 card. That said, I don't really think that the telegraph is spike. I think the likelier telegraph here is cross, which does tempt Bang into playing a polarizing blast jutsu. He could also play the other copy. Well, no, he can't. Sorry, both copies of Fatal Eruption are now down. What do we got? His own cross and a spike. Well, speak of the devil. So, yeah, Bang could advance and then get hit, or he could not advance. He could retreat and whiff, but like there's really no reason to use set nail here. Like your before is you may advance retreat to, so we'll probably choose not to. Hit for 3, which is to say 1, and then back up. Treasure needs to take the 1 and then decide whether or not he's going to spin force. There it is. Boost goes down first, then attack, yep. Alright, and that was Treasure's initiative, so it is now Bang's turn. It might be about time to exceed, although the catch there is he might not actually want to strike. Yep, he prepares. Alright, Treasure, again taking the affectionately nicknamed the Ryu action, right? To spend nothing to move 1 space. Because his force cost is paid for by his exceed ability. Alright, Bang, boosting, beat it out with your hammer, advance 2 and strike, pays a force by discarding a second copy of block, I believe, advance 2 and strike, so this telegraphs a dive or a spike, probably a dive. So Treasure's got going for him. It is the dive, it is the block. Alright. Yep, so that's the on-curve dive, hitting for 5. Treasure, using his character ability, pays a force automatically, so he has a 4 armor block. He takes 1 damage. That is the second copy of Infinite Gas Fist of the Void down. That was Bang's initiative. It is now Treasure's turn. 3 gauge at his disposal, and a 5 life lead. A resource deficit, but that's a little bit misleading because it is Treasure Knight after all. The expectation here is that Bang will exceed in order to take advantage of his recursion effects in the near future. We have not seen any copies, as far as I can remember, of Hyper Shadow Step Strike. So we might also expect to see an Unstoppable Palm Thrust and or a Polarizing Blast Jutsu, although I know one of those dropped. Maybe both, but I think one. And 1 Unstoppable Palm Thrust also dropped. So I think we're down to 1 of each. Guess we'll see. I believe that's the first block dropped on Treasure's side. If so, that would be fairly important, because that means he still has a block to work with. And block is obviously very potent when he can, you know, get armor for free. I think it's one block, one focus on Treasure's side. I think there is one focus on Bang's side. But, you know, as usual, I'm not paying the closest attention to what all cards are up and down. I'm just streaming and trying to keep an eye on game state to make sure nothing goes wrong. Alright, we have Sunken Treasure. That is going to do something a little bit interesting. So at the start of the opponent's turn, meaning at the start of each of the opponent's turn, place the top card of your deck face down in this boost, and when this boost leaves play, add all cards under to your hand. So this boost is a way, essentially, of like concealing information and borrowing against the future, right? It's like now, Treasure is setting cards aside that aren't in his hand, his deck, his discard pile, his gauge, whatever. They will go to his hand whenever that boost goes away. But for now, this makes him less vulnerable to reading. Oh, here we have the flip. Alright. Just gonna... Alright, so Bang exceeding with Dive, Assault, Void Tempest, and Bang Saw Shuriken. And then immediately striking. So this is not Hyperstatus with Strike. This is a sweep, apparently. Going to trade down. Hits for 6 and then takes 8s. Fairly painful. 8. Discards a copy of Treasure Coin, which has a pretty useful boost on it, so that's good. Okay, they fixed it. Didn't even have time to finish typing it. Alright, grabbed a Hyperstatus with Strike. And then that card under Sunken Treasure goes to Treasure's hands. Alright, that was Bang's initiative. It is now Treasure's turn. Yeah, so it looks like Bang might yet have the damage to just close this in the near future. It depends really on what Treasure Knight kept up. I think he still has a block though, which would be a problem. One block on Treasure's side and no copies of Infinite Chaos Fist on Bang's side could make this a little rough. Yeah, it makes sense to me to use the Exceed to try to start recurring cards. Oh, let me take a look at that for y'all, by the way. So his Exceed ability is your EX attacks with +1 power. His Overdrive effect, which occurs, as a reminder, whenever you discard a card from your Overdrive area, returns all copies of that card from his discard pile to his hand. So he'll be recurring an EX Assaults, an EX Void Tempest Kick. Well, maybe. He has to first get rid of this one. EX Bang Saw Shuriken, EX Dive. If Dive is down, which I think it is, but I don't remember. But yeah, so taking advantage of the recursion makes sense. However, he is running some issues where he doesn't necessarily want to be striking repeatedly. The War of Attrition does not necessarily favor him in life. But if he doesn't take advantage of the recursion, it might not favor him in cards either. So we'll see soon how well each player has been preparing for this moment. Bang and Overdrive is a pretty terrifying threat. But if Treasure's ready for it, then he will have answers. Treasure Knight taking the manual reshuffle action. Probably not an act of desperation. If he was desperate, he would have changed cards, his gauge, his hand, and then one extra thanks to his character ability. So he probably has what he needs. I'm guessing a focus, a block, maybe both. And is just trying to make sure his options get refreshed before he becomes fully known, as it were. Like before his entire hand is deducible information. Alright, so it's now Bang's turn. At the start of his turn, he will discard a card from his Overdrive. His choice switch card. Typically you would see the Assault here, but it could be any of them. He does pick up the Assault. Yep, meaning he will pick up the Assault from his discard pile. The question now is, does he strike? And if so, does he strike with For Love and Justice? And in that event, does Treasure Knight play block or focus? Oh, what's this? Looks like that's an advance. So Bang takes the move action, paying 3 gauge to advance 3. This does ensure that he'll get that Void Tempest Kick value on the next turn. but I'm a little surprised. Yeah, so instead of just slamming the EX assaults, he is, again, playing relatively conservatively. Control the center, have room to backstep, and use recursion to your advantage. He has more cards left. The question is, can he survive long enough to make that matter? That'll be difficult. Treasure Knight taking the, again, Ryu action, so to speak, which is paying 1 force to move 1 without discarding any cards thanks to his Exceed ability. Alright, well, Bang now probably picking up either Shuriken or Tempest Kick. Picks up Shuriken, so he's now holding EX Shuriken. Yep, so 4 cards in his hand are known, but they're pretty good cards. Also an implicit mix-up there. Not an amazing mix-up, but there is a mix-up. Shuriken doesn't really lose to anything. Well, EX Shuriken doesn't lose to anything, except for EX Grasp, right. The catch with EX Shuriken is that it doesn't win very hard, right? It only has 3 power. It's 1 printed, +1 from EX, +1 from his Exceed ability. It also costs force. That's a non-trivial drawback right now. Sometimes the fact that it costs a force and it has before draw 1, which is a draw a card. So it can still be useful to kind of cycle through unneeded cards to get to more important cards, but going through his deck faster is clearly not a thing that Bang wants to do right now. He is trying to maximize the number of cards he has left. To all appearances, anyway. Ooh, striking with 1 card. Hopefully nobody was paying much attention. I don't think he shuffled his hands. Alright, Treasure responding with a single card. Okay, this is the focus. This is the dive charge. Alright, going to trade roughly even. So this hit effect means that dive charge is +3 power, so hits for 6 minus 2 armor is 4. And then gets hit back for 4 by the focus. Bang draws a card. Alright, so Bang is still holding EX Assault and EX Shuriken. Oh, we have a reading. Almost certainly calling that Assault and playing a Sweep or, you know, maybe, oh, 1 card? Okay, yeah. A Grasp, there you go. Yep, outspeeds even the EX, so knows that he's safe here. And is going to throw Bang 1 or 2 spaces in either direction. Things are looking rough for Bang here. 10 life down against Treasure Knight is going to be hard to make up. Looks like Treasure is going to pull Bang into the corner. Alright, it is now Bang's turn, so at the start of his turn he will be retrieving EX Void Tempest or EX Dive, if there's a dive in his discard pile, which I do not remember if he dropped a dive. I know he dropped a Void Tempest though. He has 1 card in deck. It's now starting to look like he needs to actually kill Treasure Knight. Like, grinding out the rest of the game by never losing another strike is a nice idea. But I'm not sure if he still has the tools to do it. Alright, shuffling the hand, probably about to strike. 1 card. So here's the mix-up. Is it Void Tempest? And if it is, can you deal with it? It's Bang Style Shuriken, which is pretty good into Aquamine. Oh, excuse me, no it isn't. Aquamine will actually straight up kill that if Bane doesn't get out of the way. Now, of course, he can get out of the way. We know that for a fact. He draws one, plays a boost from his hand. He has at least backstep. We're not sure what else, right? Looks like he's going to play the double jump. Advance 3, then retreat. Wait, what? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And then retreat 1. And then draws a card, which will cause which will force the reshuffle here. So an automatic reshuffle should occur while this boost is still in play. Two, 3, and then retreat 1. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so before drawing for end of turn, not end of turn, excuse me, before drawing for the effect, he's tipping the hands to his opponent. So these are the remaining cards. Assault, Unstoppable Palm Thrust, Thanks All Shuriken, Void Tempest Kick, and Hyper Shadow Step Strike. Yep. Alright. On the basis of that, Treasure Knight has already chosen that he's going to be retreating 1 space with his after effects. Okay, they almost didn't catch that, but they got it. Yeah, so Bang draws, then this boost hits the discard. Yep, all resolved correctly. Okay. That was a good wild swing. Aquamine having that level of guard and that range meant that Bang couldn't just play the larger than life boost to gain advantage. He was probably hoping to chain together successful attacks to rush down this 14, well, then 15 health. Unfortunately, now Treasure Knight has a turn to reload, and he's probably going to do it. I imagine we'll see a CC4 here from Gage. Treasure Knight definitely likes to have at least 3 gauge because his ultras are pretty solid, but 6 gauge is kind of a lot. Then again, I'm not a Treasure Knight player. Oh, what's this? It looks like we are seeing a change cards. 2 from hands, 2 from gauge. +1. Yep, so that would be CC. Oh, excuse me. 3 from gauge. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is either 4 or 5 or 6 gauge, depending on how exactly, or force, depending on how exactly he decides to pay it. Yeah. So apparently decided to spin that as 5 force, drawing a total of 6 cards. Perfectly legal. Alright, so Bang returns dive to his hand. He does not have a dive in the discard pile, because that discard pile is freshly empty, essentially. It only has 1 card in it. He then reverts. And the music fades. Or it would if it was playing. The music that is playing has nothing to do with Bang. Alright, it is still Bang's turn. He still has pretty healthy hands. It's going to be rough to take out the rest of Treasure Knight's health, and possibly even rougher to survive for another, you know, maybe 14 turns. We'll see what happens. I think there's still a reading threat on Treasure Knight's side. So a lot of this is probably going to come down to how much is Bang willing to play against the threat of reading. That much, apparently. That's the answer. Discard or dive to move forward 1 space. Fairly sure he still has an assault in that hands. I might be misremembering though. So he's willing to get the assault readings in this position, but he wasn't willing to get the dive readings in that position. Well, if Treasure ever draws into EX Maelstrom Chest, that is, the game will probably end in a hurry. That is one of his best closers, at least in my experience. Alright, High Tide. That is the +2 armor before you may spend 2 force. If you do, push 1. Again, giving treasure very good control over positioning. For example, this means that treasure can play a grasp and beat sweep or spike or assault at this range. He won't hit, but he doesn't need to hit. You could also play Angler Call and beat virtually everything except for dive. Oh, or Shuriken, I suppose, yeah. Wouldn't be Shuriken. Let me go dig up Angler Call here. That card has really good art. Which is, you know, massively obscured by this big reference copy stamp here, but whatever. What was that? That was setting a card down by accident from the look of it, and then striking with a different card. Alright. Is this the Angler Call? I mean, not on Bank's side, obviously, but I'm wondering what treasure will respond with. Looks like he has his response. It is the assaults. Alright, it is the treasure coin. That is going to be game. So the assault does not stun through 2 armor 3 guard, and then the treasure will have ample resources to push Bang out to range 2, and then hit for lethal thanks to the before effect on treasure coin. Good game. Alright, that decides game 2. Well, assuming he chooses to do the thing, but yeah, it would be strictly incorrect not to win the game here, given you can. Okay, here we go. Spin 3 force for +3 power. Alright, good game. So that is game 2 in favor of Treasure Knights, meaning we are going to game 3. Let's switch back to the interstitial. I'm calling it an interstitial, I don't know what to call it, but I've asked somebody recently and they said that's what it's called. The screen here that you're looking at. Whew. I've been streaming about 2 hours now, by the way, so please drink water. It's good for you. Stay hydrated, my friends. On that note, I'm going to grab more water myself. BRB. Alright, I'm back. The players affirm that everyone should be drinking water. At least one of them does. I choose to believe both of them do. Alright, they have chosen their next characters, so let's go right on in. Let's see. It's not quite aligned correctly. Looks like we have Bang Shishigami once more. And Chun-Li once more. So the two fighters who were defeated are back for revenge, except they're fighting each other instead of the other. Alright, that's it, Mark. Moving right along. Bang taking first, moles, and then prepares. Chun-Li's turn. This matchup should be fairly interesting. Bang has versatile range tools. Pretty interesting ways to deal with boosts as well, although one of them is on one of those range tools. Oh! Oh, wow! Drop both Zinkas for ultra parry off the bat. Discard 3 normals, or show me your hand and discard all your normals. Looks like Bang does have 3 normals. Drops... Oh? Yes, okay. Drops a focus, a dive, and a grasp. Well, that's one reading down already. Bang then prepares. Note that Chun-Li chose not to retreat. She then prepares as well. That's typically one of the two ways actually 3 ways this card gets used, right? So either you change cards it, or you ultra parry very early, or you Hozenka very late. That card is phenomenal at closing games. Alright, here we have the beat a nail with your hammer. +1 speed, now advance 2 and strike. Again, enforcing that mix-up. He has on curve, assault, and unstoppable palm thrust. He has below curve, void tempest, and spike. Looks like unstoppable palm gets called correctly. She anticipates this with spinning bird kick, which yeah, they shorthand it. So he pushes 2, she advances 3. It is his advantage, but yeah, getting to trading against that is a lot better than losing to void tempest or spike. So she called that out. Good play. Bang then prepares. Are we going to see a repeat of their matchup earlier in the tournament? If I recall correctly, Chykka got some hard reads off in that set. I think. Is that every set? I think so. Alright, she initiates with the cross. She responds with Pulverized Blast Jitsu. Okay, time for Bang to make the read. She retreats 3 and he advances 3. She is now at the corner. He has 2 different specials in gauge already. She has 2 gauge out of the 3 she needs to exceed. He also has some position control here. After a fewer hit, move up to 2. So does he actually want range 1 or does he want range 2 or 3? His choice. Very good callouts, both strikes by both players. That's what I like to see. Okay. One of the players needs to step away for a moment, so... enjoy the music. Okay, it looks like one of our players will not be able to finish the set due to an emergency that has just now come up. So we are going to have to stop the set here. I will be saving off a copy of the game state and discussing with the TO whether they should be resuming from my save at a later date or restarting the 3rd game. First 2 games were obviously pretty conclusively decided, so there's really no question about those. They just have a 3rd game to get through. The question will be whether or not they should resume this at a later point, or restart, or be given the option. I'm not sure. I don't know what will happen here, but for now, we will have to call this stream. Look forward to the exciting conclusion next time on Exceed Fighting System. I'm not sure where I was going with that. Either way, So for now, we're calling it. This set will conclude at a later date.